Hello everybody and welcome to another video. This is going to be a relatively quick one, but I thought it would be cool to have a cheeky look at this. The GAIME Light Gun, which is a new plug-and-play light gun that's been released to work with modern television screens. This first popped up on my radar back in August. There was a Kickstarter campaign for it. I backed what was called the Premium Edition, which comes with the gun itself, it comes with 4 games, a collectible pin badge, and a keychain. There was also a basic option, which was just a gun with 1 game. The kind of front and centre game is Time Crisis. And there's also a kind of ultimate bundle, which is everything in this one, plus another gun and a diorama. Now, I absolutely love me a light gun game. Back on the PS1, I had what was called a Scorpion light gun, which was not quite one of the highest end ones, but it was still really cool. I used to love playing the second part of Die Hard trilogy with it. I even had a Judge Dredd game for it, and I did used to love the original Point Blank on the PS1. They were also a big draw for me at the arcades, albeit they were also one of the pricier ones, but I did enjoy spending a little bit of money on House of the Dead or various other ones that were there. Home light guns did kind of go away towards the end of the PS2 era, and that was mostly because of the technology behind television sets changing. The light guns relied on sending a signal, which would bounce off of the old cathode ray tubes in the back of the TVs at the time, but as we moved to LCD and plasma and all of that, the CRTs didn't exist anymore, the tubes didn't exist anymore, so light guns wouldn't work. It was a loss for fans of those games, but I think it was a benefit for those of us with spines, because bloody hell, those CRTs were heavy. Now, light gun games or on-rail shooters haven't totally gone away. They are still released in the arcades, and you still get home platforms with on-rail shooters, but you don't necessarily get the gun props anymore. You could perhaps point to some of the attempts with motion controls and the shells and props there as an attempt, but you don't even really get them now. But remember, the Wii and PS3 did have House of the Dead Overkill on it, which was absolutely fantastic. So this is where the game steps in. It's a simple plug-and-play light gun designed to work on modern televisions. It's been released in conjunction with the 30th anniversary of Time Crisis, and it is endorsed by Bandai Namco. As mentioned, I got the premium bundle, which includes Time Crisis and 3 other games, Point Blank and Steel Gunner 1 and Steel Gunner 2. So let's have a look at what we have here. So the setup is fairly simple. Everything is done through this thing here, the TV unit. On the back, you've got a HDMI port and a USB-C port. HDMI cable straight from this into your TV. USB-C cable straight from this into an appropriate adapter. Which brings me to my first point that might irk people. This does not come with a plug adapter. You will need to supply your own. It requires a 5-volt 3-amp adapter. It is likely you will have one of these lying around if you own a tablet or a smartphone. If not, they're relatively easy to get hold of. I personally used my Steam Deck charger for it. But make sure when you do get an adapter, it's 5-volt and 3-amp. Next up, for this particular edition, we have a pedal. So the pedal goes there into one of the ports on the front of the TV unit. And I'll talk about what the pedal does when we talk about the games, because the basic bundle doesn't come with the pedal, I believe. And then finally, we get the gun itself, which is absolutely lovely. So the gun feels fairly light in the hand. It doesn't feel cheap at all. It feels like it's made of a nice solid plastic. I think there was an attempt here to make it resemble the gun con from the original Time Crisis, but having a look at the comparison pictures, there are a few differences and some extra buttons. So on the gun itself, you get the, try and get that displayed, you get the trigger. You get buttons on the front. So one is labelled A and the other is labelled B. You can see the B button there. You get a button on one side. That is for inserting coins. You get a button on this side, which is for pausing your game. And you also get a toggle here to turn recoil off and on. So everything here feels fairly solid, fairly good quality, well made. Everything is quite lightweight, so it's not too heavy. It doesn't really take up too much space. But like I said, it doesn't feel cheap, feels really nice. So let's actually go on and check out the games themselves. So when you switch on the game, you get an introduction video telling you how to set things up. This is followed by a calibration process. To calibrate the system, it gives you several targets on screen. You have to shoot them one by one, and this is at different points of the screen. So like the top left, the top right, the bottom left, the bottom right, and center points as well. You have to aim at the center of it through the sights on the gun. Keep repeating this, and then it should set it up nicely for you. You are given a few warnings about making sure you pick a position that is a correct distance from your screen, and warned that you might have to recalibrate if you do move around too much. From there, we get our basic menu where we can select the game, we can recalibrate, or we can go into an options menu. Options, fairly simple. For each game, we can pick the difficulty level or a handful of other options depending on the game. We can have an on-screen crosshair for time crisis or not. Like I say, bare bones, but functional. So let's try our first game, Time Crisis. Released 30 years ago, back all the way in 1995, Time Crisis is arguably one of the best known light gun games out there, probably alongside House of the Dead. I think if you asked anyone to name a light gun game, chances are it'll be one of those two that they mention. It's very easy to see why. Even though this game looks a little bit dated now, it is still the same fun experience it was back then. Simple enough for anyone to pick up and play, has a nice challenge to it, and just incredibly fun. The premise here, you are Richard Miller, you have to take down a terrorist organisation and rescue the president's daughter. And what we have here is the original arcade version in all of its glory, which means none of the additional content that was added in the PlayStation port. Now, I've only played the PlayStation version without a light gun, so having the chance to play it not only with the light gun, but also the pedal, was transformative. So what the pedal does in this game is generally you will always be in cover. You hit the pedal to move out of cover and shoot your target. So there's a little bit of tactical gameplay going on there. But you are also fighting against the clock and various other things. So you can't just hunker down in cover and wait for the opportunity. You have kind of got to be speedy there. But I absolutely loved playing this game. The gun was really responsive. It did take a little bit of getting used to knowing where to aim and shoot. I did have to recalibrate once because I think I messed something up on my first attempt at calibration. But when I was up and running, it was incredible. Like I say, very easy to see why this is still a highly regarded title and why it was picked to showcase this technology. So next up, let's have a look at Point Blank. The original arcade version of Point Blank predates Time Crisis by about a year, and it is a bit of a departure from many light gun games in that it is not an on-rails shooter, but is instead about you playing through a series of challenges to rack up high scores or before you run out of lives. These challenges may include shooting skeletons as they jump out of graves, shooting bottles on a wall, taking down terrorists in a hallway, or shooting an apple off of a dude's head. There's a lot of variation here, and it is all presented in a lovely and charming way. I should go on record and say that I absolutely adore Point Blank, or should I say the PS1 version of Point Blank, especially the RPG mode. Unfortunately, this is just the arcade version, but it's still so much fun and packed with so much charm and challenge that I defy anyone to not have fun with it. This is the sort of game that you could bust out when you have friends over, and I think everyone would be laughing and having fun with it. Like Time Crisis, it worked absolutely fine. It was maybe a touch more responsive, or maybe I was just getting used to how the gun worked and how to aim it appropriately. I can't claim to have been any good at many of the games, but I had a lot of fun playing what I did. Now finally, we come up to the games that I'm not really familiar with at all. Steel Gunner 1 and Steel Gunner 2. I'm going to pop them both together because, being honest, there wasn't too much between them. Steel Gunner was originally released in 1990. It was actually Namco's first foray into light gun games, so it does have this historical importance, and regardless of my thoughts on it, I can see why they'd include it in this bundle. The premise here, again, really simple. You're a cop in a mech suit mowing down terrorists. I really loved the sprite art on display here and the general style of the game overall. I would say that compared to Time Crisis and Point Blank, it maybe didn't feel quite as fun to play. It was incredibly fast paced, there was a lot of enemies on screen, a lot of things going on at once, and it didn't really feel like there was much I could do to stop myself from being hit. Whereas in Time Crisis, the pedal and timing of that certainly helped. What you do have here, though, as well, is a limited number of rockets that can help clear the screen. So I suppose like many of these games, it's about learning patterns and just improving each time. That said, I did enjoy the time here with it. It's one that I would probably go back to, and I would say to play it because of its historical significance. So, with all of these games played, what is the verdict? Well, it does exactly what it sets out to do. It is an easy to use, easy to set up light gun that works on modern television screens. Feels really nice, the recoil wasn't overpowering, it was stable, responsive, not uncomfortable. I think that if you are looking for a light gun with 4 really fun games to play, then you can't go wrong. However, it is just that. It's a light gun with 4 really good games, and it's not cheap. I'm not sure about other parts of the world, but as an example, here in the UK, Argos will be stocking this. They have a bundle up at this moment for pre-order. This particular one, the premium one, is £149. The ultimate bundle is £199. It's not cheap. Considering the tech here and you getting the 4 games, I do imagine it makes up that cost. If you look at other light guns out there that are coming through, things like the Sinden, the Polymega light gun, they're not cheap either. So the tech is an expensive one at this moment in time. But I do understand asking people to part ways with that amount of cash is quite an ask. So it does make it feel like a little bit of an enthusiast product. Also, it comes with 4 games, and that is it. I don't know what the future plans are here, but for now, this is limited to just these 4 titles, and it is only the arcade versions. As mentioned, you don't get the extra PS1 levels for Time Crisis. You don't get the RPG mode for Point Blank. And from what I've seen, there doesn't seem to be a plan to allow for purchasing additional games to it. I don't know if the company is going to release another unit in the future with more games for it, so bear in mind it is limited, and that does seem a little bit of a shame, because it might have been cool if the TV unit served as a mini platform for getting other arcade light gun games on it. Time Crisis, as an example, had multiple sequels. Point Blank did. You could look at things like companies like Sega and get the House and Dead games on there. You'd even look at some of the other ones out there. Something like Mad Dog McCree, you know, as an example. So, yeah, I love having this. I think it's fantastic. It's something I will play a lot of going forward. Yet, I wonder about the future of it. Are we going to get a Game 2 TV unit in the future with more games? Or is this a one and done? Is this a great product but maybe a missed opportunity to build a platform? The tech on display is great, and they do have the passion for it. They worked with Bandai Namco and they got these 4 games on there, the ones of historical importance, but I do think there's this untapped potential. So in short, I love it. If you have the funds, I would heavily recommend it, but I think be aware of those limitations. So as always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this. I'd absolutely love to hear from you all. Is this something you were aware of? Is it something you might actually go out and get now? And do be sure to tell me some of your favourite light gun games as well. Please do give the video a like and subscribe to the channel for more retro gaming content. And thank you again for taking the time to watch this. I'll see you again in a future video. Goodbye.